right, hello everybody and welcome. So today I decided that it was finally time to film my best and worst of 2025. I figured I should probably do this before January's over and nobody cares anymore. It's only taken the entire month. And I think a lot of that has to honestly do with the simple fact that I just did not have a good reading year in 2025. I didn't have a good year at all in 2025. Like, let's just be real for a second here. 2025 was a terrible year, and my reading reflects that a lot. So I decided, looking at everything that I read, I had more books that I would consider bad than I did good. So what I ended up doing was I found all the good books, and then I was like, okay, I only have this many good, so I can only put this many bad in relation. Just so that this wasn't just a worst of video. So yeah, so I have 4 books that were the best, and then 4 books that were the worst. And so I'm gonna go back and forth between them. Okay, we're gonna start with the worst, that way we end on the best. I had to make sure that it lined up correctly to do that, because I don't want to end the video on a bad. I want to end it on a good. So let's go ahead and let's get started. I have my little list here because I wrote them down. And up first on this list is going to be Lamplighter. I realized that I forgot to get the author names for these books, and I should probably go and do that. I'll be right back, guys. All right, I'm back. So let's start over. I got author names this time. So first on the worst list is Lamplighter by Crystal J. Bell. This was one that I was actually like, I would probably say it was probably like an anticipated read. Like, I was really interested in this one. It was a YA Gothic, and while it did deliver on the Gothic vibes, the Gothic atmosphere, it was unfortunately one of those stories where all of the main, like, the plot around the mystery of what's happening to the girls in this town completely gets overshadowed by a bunch of romance. It just and it's so frustrating because that always happens. And like, the thing with like a lot of Gothic stories is I do expect there to be like a romantic element involved, and I do love when it's involved, but this one unfortunately just overshadowed it, and it was very like not interesting romantic elements, honestly. There was the topic of SA, and I don't think Belle handled it well, honestly. I think she could have done a lot better with that. And the ending is absolutely terrible. That was the thing that ticked me off most, was the ending. This book has the worst ending possible, and wasn't too thrilled about that. The other thing that was really frustrating was that I figured out the mystery probably a chapter after it was revealed that there was a mystery. Like, I knew what was happening to the girls, and I knew who the bad guy was, like, instantaneously. It was just way too obvious. And when you're writing a book with a mystery in it, like, you don't want the mystery to be that predictable. Like, you want your reader to be like, ooh, who is it? What's it gonna be? What's happening? It was just so easily spelled out that I was just like, oh, figure that out. So yeah, just overall big disappointment. And I'm really sad about that because I was anticipating it and I had such high hopes for it. All right, so now our first best book is going to go to One Grim Night by Chad Nicholas. If you watch Chaz over at Bookish Chaz, he is a big fan of Chad Nicholas's stories, and this was one that he had he talked about a few times throughout the year, and I do believe it's on his best videos, his best of 2025 video, and I enjoyed it. It definitely wasn't my top favorite, but out of the few good ones I had, it was one that I did thoroughly enjoy. For me, it was more of a 4-star. I did like the appeal of everything happening in one night, in one room kind of thing. There was also a few of the fairy tale characters where I was personally stumped on who they were, and I did enjoy that because there were the few that stood out instantly, like Little Red Riding Hood. But then there was others where I was like, who is this? And I applaud Nicholas for that, because like like you want to know what fairy tales are being used in the story, but at the same time, like, I love just kind of being in the dark and like not being able to instantaneously tell who it is. I definitely think he did a really good job building the atmosphere in the world and keeping you intrigued. It was definitely one of those stories where I think I read it in like 2 days because I was just very interested. I was just like, oh, I want to see where this goes, see what happens. So definitely enjoyed that one. I would say it's definitely worth checking out. It has made me interested in wanting to check out some of his other stuff, so that's a positive. All right, now back to our worst list. Number 2 comes in for Red in Tooth and Claw by Lish McBride. This was another one that I was like super anticipating, and I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be so good, and then it was absolute garbage. But this one, one of my current like obsession niches right now is Weird West, which, if you are not familiar with that, it is Western stories and settings with a horror element thrown into it. I love the idea of horror and cowboys. I don't know what it is, and maybe it's because my mommy's a horror lady and my daddy's a cowboy guy. I don't know, but I was so intrigued by this. I was like, yes, we got some cowboy, like Western kind of feels going on with some witchcraft or demons or something, and instead I got a really poorly written romance and no horror. It was so fun, you guys. I was so happy to be so disappointed and angry with this book. I think the thing that ticked me off the most about this book was the main character, Fallon. She is getting close to 2 of the other kids who also go to this settlement that she's living at, and she's becoming closer with this hired gunman, essentially, and she's like breaking down these walls and these barriers with them, and you're like, oh my gosh, like she's creating her little found family. And then she tells her life story and why she dresses like a boy to the love interest that she knew for 2 days. And I was like, what? Why? You've known this guy for 2 days and you want to just reveal all of your secrets, all of your information about yourself, when there's perfectly good characters over here who you have been building these beautiful relationships with? Get out of my face. Get out of my face. Just and then there was zero exploration into the cult that the author was building in the story. Just zero exploration going into it. Like I said, the 2 horror aspects that like come up in the book don't come up till like the end of the book, and it's like a 400-page book if I remember correctly. And like one of those like really bloody scenes that the cover has a tagline for is like 63 pages till the end, and it's not even that bloody, you guys. Like, it's really not. Like, the horror elements were just so watered down and so just like, oh, and like the atmosphere, it started there and then it just kind of like disappeared. And I really do honestly think it's because the romance ruined the story, because it took this trajectory and then it just went and just off. And yeah, very disappointed with that one. All right, on to our next best of, and that goes to Helldivers by Nicholas Sansbury Smith. So this is not to be confused with the video game Helldivers. The book series Helldivers has nothing to do with the video game Helldivers. The author even has a thing on his website talking about it. They just so happen to have a lot of similarities. But with Helldivers, I have actually had this one on my radar for probably about 2 years now, and I was able to read it through Kindle Unlimited, And I really enjoyed it. I really like these dystopian kind of stories that aren't, like Hunger Games or something, where it's more like, with this one, Earth, a war happened and Earth is no longer habitable. All the people live on these airships kind of things. And we do follow our main character, Xavier, or otherwise known as X. And they jump down to Earth to gather any kind of supplies that they can find that their airships need. And I just found it so intriguing, like, seeing the journey of them having to, like, go down and face whatever is living on Earth now. Like, because things have mutated. And I'm very intrigued, and I want to know, are they mutated because of, like, the nuclear bombs and stuff, or, all the military explosions that had happened, or were these science experiments gone wrong? I really enjoyed all of the characters. There's a side character who's a kid who, very interesting little side character for him. His little storyline was quite intriguing. And I look forward to seeing where his storyline goes in this one. I will say with Xavier, I was loving his character. I was like, yes, I love this guy. He's battle hardened. He's the longest living hell diver because they don't live for long most of the time. And I was really, really intrigued by him. And then the author went and did the worst thing possible by making him a cheater. Like, it's the one complaint that I have about the book, because I was just, I'm sorry. I don't like characters who cheat. I don't, as someone who has been cheated on. That's it instantly. It just instantly, and I was like, ugh, X, I hate you now. But I did enjoy seeing the relationship that he was building with his team and everything. There's also tons of action, and I very much enjoyed it. There is another side character who comes from a Helldivers team from a different airship. And I was really digging his story. But also, you have to be prepared that the author has no problem killing characters. There was one that I had got really attached to, and then he killed him. And I was like, well. So, I at least know going forward that there's going to be plenty more characters that I'm probably going to fall in love with that he's going to kill. All right, moving on to our next worst book, and this one is probably going to be a bit controversial, and that is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. I hope I said that last name right. I hated this book. I'm just going to keep it so real with you guys. I already am not a fan of lit RPG, but everyone was like, oh, it doesn't feel like lit RPG, like how lit RPG has always felt, and I was just like, there is a very big part of me that was like, I know I'm not going to like this, but you know what? Let me just give it a try, because my friend Chaz over at Bookish Chaz, he enjoyed it. It wasn't his favorite, but he enjoyed it, and I was like, well, maybe it's not so bad. No, it was bad for me. It was bad for me. I didn't find it humorous at all. But that's because I'm very picky about my humor. I don't find sexual jokes funny. I don't find making fun of other people funny. I'm more of a dad jokes kind of girl, The more silly and stupid the joke is, the more I'm gonna love it. So I didn't find any of the humor funny. I did not like any of the characters, and that includes Donut, the cat. I actually found the cat to be the most insufferable character in the entire book, if I'm being honest. Which sucks, because it's not often that you come across a book that has a cat sidekick. Usually it's a dog or a wolf or a bird. It's not often there's a cat unless there's a witch involved. So, I was hoping that maybe I would have liked the cat. I didn't like the cat. I also just found, one of the other things about the humor aspect was it did this thing where the jokes started out short And then as you read more in the book, the jokes got longer and longer and longer, and like they would just drag out. And I was like, you've lost the point of the joke. Like, that's the one thing I hate when it comes to humor, is because you see this on TikTok a lot and like reels and everything, where in order to get that monetization, they have to make their video last like a minute long, and they just drag the joke out to where after hearing the same joke like 5 times in a row, you're like, okay, it's not funny anymore. Like, you've ruined the joke. But it's because they want to get that 1 minute time. Like, that's what was happening in this book. Like, the jokes were short and sweet. I didn't find them funny, but like they were short, and I was like, okay, like whatever, I can keep going. But then they just got longer and longer and longer and longer, and I was just like, why are we dragging this joke out? Like, what are we doing? Why are we dragging that out? I also just found certain scenes to be very uncomfortable. The way certain aspects of the fights were playing out, I had noticed a trend where the male villains would get like a one-hit knockout kind of thing, or be smashed easily with like a hammer or something, and it's like, oh, really quick and done. And then the female villains were like beaten relentlessly, and I was just like, this is a really weird pattern, and it makes me uncomfortable. And you know, I've seen some other women point it out, and not a lot do, you know, and I've seen other people, you know, be like, oh, you're being too sensitive and stuff. I'm sorry, like, as a woman, it just kind of like stands out to me, like, when I start to notice patterns like that. I also just didn't really find the stereotyping to be funny at all. You know, just there was just a lot of little things that just made me go, ew, I don't like this. So yeah, that's definitely one of my worst books. And I know there's probably going to be someone in the comments being like, oh, you should have listened to the audiobook because it makes the jokes funnier. Absolutely not. I have heard clips from the audiobook, and I think it sounds terrible. I'm going to be so real. I'm going to be so real. I would not be able to listen to that. I'm so sorry. You know, if you guys, I know a lot of you guys love it. Just, it's not for me. I'm not the audience, and that's okay. And so it was unfortunately one of my worst books. So anyways, we're gonna move on. Up next for best of number 3, and this one was hard because my number 2 and my number 1 for my best of books, it's such a toss-up. It's such a toss-up, but I'm actually going to go with the manga Veil by Koteri. And this one, it's so funny that this one is like my number 2 for best, because it's very romantic centered. And I've done nothing but complain about other books that like focus on romance too much. But it's because it depicts romantic elements in a way that I personally love. The story follows a blind woman and a police officer that they cross paths, they meet, they become friends, and the veil is that layer between romantic and platonic. That's the word. And it shows these soft romantic moments between them, but also these very soft moments that feel like friendship. And it's never really stated if there is like a full-blown romance between these two characters, but it's two characters who they care so very deeply with each other that like it exceeds the idea of something romantically involved. Like it just kind of like sits in its own little realm somewhere, but at the core of it, it is so very soft and tender and romantic. Like there's just these moments where you're just like, oh, that's so romantic. And I love it because it just has this softness about it that it's more than just it doesn't touch into the realm of sexual attraction. It just touches into the realm of those tiny moments that speak to me personally louder when it comes to two people who care deeply for each other. It's those little things that you do for each other. And it just kind of and I fell in love with it. And like, it was so funny because like my sister was like, you need to read Veil. And I was like, Veil? And she was like, you need to read it. She's like, this is everything that you love in the idea of a romantic a romantic situation between people. She's like, it's perfect for you. You're gonna fall in love with it. And she was right. She was right. And mind you, this goes for like the whole thing. I think there's 4 volumes right now, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get my hands on physical copies of this, because I read it digitally and I have to own this manga. That is how much I love it, and the art is just gorgeous. So I highly, highly recommend this manga if you're into reading manga and you want to like just read those softer, tender, quieter, romantic moments, and those platonic moments that live in the veil of what are we, what aren't we kind of situation. Like, beautiful, love it. And then my top worst book, because we are at number 1 for my worst. This one goes to In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. I have never hated a book. No, that's wrong. There is another book that I hate worse than this. But I hated this book. I hated this book. I'm sorry, but humor at the expense of somebody's comfortability is not funny. And that's basically what this entire book was. I find it so hard to believe that this is a cute, cozy little story when our main character is made fun of throughout the entire book by his so-called family for being uncomfortable with the topic of sex. Like, it was very clear that our main character was ace coded, and as somebody who falls on the ace umbrella, this book ticked me off. It genuinely ticked me off, because why are the people who are the closest to our main character making fun of him and making him uncomfortable with making sexual jokes throughout the entire book, after he asks numerous times, hey, can you like stop doing that? Like, it makes me uncomfortable. Like, they know it makes them uncomfortable, and yet they find it funny. And they do it through the whole book. You know, and it's supposed to be like a Pinocchio retelling. I really couldn't tell you how close and how good it is to that, because I have never actually gotten through the whole Pinocchio story. I've never attempted to read it, but every movie iteration that's ever been done, I make it to the halfway point and then I shut it off, because I just don't like the story of Pinocchio, I guess. I don't know. I've just never been I've never been able to finish it. So I don't know how closely it follows that. But ultimately, my biggest issue was just the fact that not once throughout this entire book did I feel that this was sweet and cozy and adorable. And yeah, it makes me mad. And that book is no longer in my collection. It actually sold last week because I had it on my PANGO books, and it sold last week. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have a book to hold up anymore because I don't own it anymore. So yeah, so that is my top worst book. And now we're going to go into my top best book. And mind you, this was a toss-up between this book and Veil, okay? But we're going to go with, and I actually own this one still, The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. Fun fact, Chaz over at Bookish Chaz picked this out for me to read. Because I sent him a picture of one particular shelf, and I was like, pick a book. And he was like, The Book of Doors. I loved every inch of this. Every single inch of this. I have nothing negative to say about this book, aside from the fact that it ended. I cried. Okay, I cried a lot. Okay, the time traveling aspect in this, so interesting, so intriguing. The magic around the books, loved it. Okay, but I think the thing that I loved most is when you find out how the book, the main book of magic that is used in this, when you find out how it's created, oh, just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And it's an idea that like you just don't see in stories. And for me, it's like it really stands out, because a lot of times when something is created, it's because it's made out of love, and it is essentially something that's made out of love, but it's who that love is for that really makes it stand out and really makes you go, oh, that's beautiful. And what's really crazy is how well Brown understands how women are friends. Like, Like, if there is something I have learned over the past, like, 2-3 years with trying to read more female authors, is that some female authors just don't know how to write female friendships, which is so weird considering you're a woman. But Gareth Brown, he perfectly captured friendship between two women. And it just amazed me because it's not something I would have expected coming from a male author, honestly. Like, I was blown away by it because, like, there were so many times where the friendship that's in here between the two women reminded me of my own friendship with my best friend. And I was just like, how did Mr. Brown get into the heads of women? Like, what is going on here? Like, I think he did such a fantastic job showing friendship between women. And I wish that was something that would pop up more often, because more often than not, women are pitted against each other in books, and it's always, every woman for themselves, and you never really come across a lot of, like, strong female friendships, and this one has one. I think everything leading up to what happens and what gets unveiled was perfect. The mystery kept me on edge because I just never knew what was going to happen, and where certain things were going to go. Like, everything about this, beautiful. And like I said, I cried. And when you read the first chapter and then when you get back to the end and you finally put everything together, it makes that beginning chapter so much more emotional, you guys. At least for me it did. Okay, I was just like, oh my god, because, like, you get to that final chapter and you're just like, oh my god, I get how it all came together. It's come full circle. I get it. Like, I want to reread this, but I also, like, want to take my time before I go back and reread it, because I don't want it to be too fresh to where I can't, like, enjoy all those things, all those little mysteries again. But oh my gosh, you guys, it was so good. It was so good. And I actually am going to keep my eye out for this author. I know he has another book. I think it comes out this year, this Society of Unknowable Objects, I think is what it's called. Your girl is going to get a hold of that, okay? Because I am so interested. So, yes, those are my best and worst books of 2025. Sorry if some of these books upset you for being on my worst, but also I hope maybe you guys found something on my best list that you guys are interested in. Definitely recommend this one. More people need to read this one. It's actually one I don't see a lot of people read. It's one of the last few. It's also, what's funny is, like, it's one of, like, the last few books I got from Goldsboro where I was like, hey, this looks really good. Before I canceled my subscription because they stopped picking out cool books. But yeah, that is everything I've got for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye.